I'll mute that.
Hello, everyone. Welcome in. Hey, Jackie.
Hello. We did not coordinate this. Amanda and I are just on the same wavelength, and so we're twins today.
Woohoo! Yep. Uh, if you didn't know, Jackie made these shirts by herself, and put them on. But now they're off, right? You can't buy these shirts anymore, right?
No, not current. I may do some hoodies for the holidays. We will see. It just depends on how much time I have. So, hello,
Yes.
everybody, and welcome to anybody watching us on the Board Game Geek homepage. This is the first time we've been on. This is our fifth AMA together. Usually, I answer questions about anything at all. There tend to be a lot of questions about my old band, The Runaways. But I am the designer of the board game Rock Hard 1977, and today we are just going to talk about games. So we'll interpret that pretty broadly. Um, as Amanda knows, I was also a four-time Jeopardy champion. We can sneak in some questions about Jeopardy if you want, but mostly we're going to talk about tabletop gaming, board games, role-playing games, card games,
Do you
whatever you feel like chatting about.
do you not play video games or PC games?
I used to, and I occasionally will play something. This is going to, boy, just say okay, boomer. Sid Meier's Civilization.
Wait, are
Yes,
they
you
they're
can.
reprinting that, right? Or no, wait, that's a video game. But I know
That
there's like,
it is a computer game.
yeah.
I have intentionally not bought any video game systems because I get addicted to them, and I
Ah,
will let the world completely go by.
yes.
So yeah, King Thunderstar says that they miss Alex Trebek on Jeopardy. I do too. Every time I hear Johnny Gilbert say, "This is Jeopardy," and here's our host, and my mind goes to Alex Trebek. But Ken Jennings is quite good, and I'm just remember that someday your kids are going to grow up and that's what they're going to think of when there's a brand new host.
Isn't
There you
that
go.
interesting? Oh my gosh. It makes me feel so old when I think about what kids think about today. Or like when like things cycle through, especially fashion, and then people are like, "Guess what I found? There's these shorts that are connected to my skirt." And we're like, that's called skirts. That's been around forever."
Oh, those are called culottes.
There's called culottes before they were called skirts?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
culottes. So there you go.
There you go.
All
Uh,
right, so we're taking burning questions or discussions about board games, and I think we will start maybe with what we've been playing lately.
why don't you start?
Well, I have been playing I've been teaching, besides teaching rock hard to people. I haven't had a lot of free time, so I've just been playing some stuff on BGA, boardgamearena.com, for those of you who don't know. And one of the things that I've been playing on there because it's fast, and I checked it out because it's a music related game, and that is Draft and Write Records, which I don't think is quite as thematic as Rock Hard, but it is a very good game in this case, a draft and write, meaning that you always are going to get a few cards to choose from depending on the number of players, and you're going to choose one and check something off on your board
Uh,
and hopefully string together a lot of
Ja-
combos. I
Hold
know
on,
my
Jackie.
video is
Yeah,
frozen.
in the most unflattering of ways. Uh, and if
Why are
y'all
you
don't,
laughing? Okay,
I'm
wait.
laughing at
While
your
Amanda,
video.
I don't know what's happened to it. Let's
I'm gonna
see.
take you off because that's not a very flattering photo. Sorry, everybody. I would
Boy,
say
that
maybe,
really isn't. I just
maybe,
refreshed.
yeah,
What is
refresh
it?
or get out of Discord and come back in. And if y'all are wondering how it plays, there you are.
Let's see. There we go. I
If
should
you're
turn my
wondering how
camera
that
off and on.
plays, Jackie and I did do a playthrough on my Twitch stream, and I think the VOD is still up. But you can see how to play uh, Draft and Write Records on Board Game Arena.
Before we move on, let's
Yeah,
talk about my friend Amanda Panda, who is my gaming buddy and also hosts a Twitch channel under the not that easy to find. I'm going to let you say it, Amanda.
it's Panda Angel.
It's
But with
Panda
the 8.
Angel, but you got to take the third A and substitute an 8.
It's a Panda 8 Najal, which is sometimes what
Yes.
I say. Yeah.
And
Oh,
Amanda does very fun Twitch streams on board gaming and crafting occasionally and whatever people, and sometimes just chatting. And
yeah.
it's always fun. She has great guests, occasionally even me.
Let's see. JP Gorham says Alex is king. What did you think of Mayim? Uh,
I thought Mayim was great. Here's the thing. Ken is let's say, I know the exact number by heart, a bajillion, 9,341 game winner.
oh wow.
And he's written a bunch of trivia books, so he knows the answers to these things in a way that few other potential hosts would ever know it. So it's like if you're comparing Mayim to Ken, Mayim isn't going to know all these things and have this trivia at her fingertips in the same way that Ken is. So Ken is really a natural. He was born to do this. Um, and it's hard to compete with that. And I also think he was kind of set up from the beginning to be the host. They gave
Mm,
him the first slot right afterwards. So you have it's something called the primacy effect, where you're going to remember the first one and the last one in a list. So we all remember Ken. They gave him a 2-week slot. A lot of the other Jeopardy hosts had a 1-week slot. It is pretty set up like it's going to be Ken. And it was smart because we were all going to compare potential hosts to Alex,
mm-hmm,
except by putting Ken on for 2 weeks, then it put us in a position of comparing them all to Ken.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
And no one else was as prepared.
yeah,
So there you go. That's my
yeah.
opinion on Jeopardy. Let's go back to
We
let's
have
go
a
back to
board game
board games.
question. Well, sort of semi. Ethan says, "Have you ever tried Guitar Hero or Rock Band?" There's a funny video of Gene
Um,
Simmons failing at the Kiss song.
my sister handed me a guitar on, I think I got my nephew Guitar Hero when he was little, and my sister handed it to me one day and she said, "Play this. I want to know if this is what it really feels like playing guitar."
Was
The
it?
short answer is no,
Short
kind
answer is
of.
no.
Because when you're playing guitar, you're not trying to hit a particular rhythm.
Mm.
Um, you're
Wait.
you're you're kind of playing, you're sitting over the rhythm,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
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 So
But JP Gorham
anyway,
says Guitar Hero and Rock Band got my kids into classical rock. So hey, anything helps, right?
there you go.
Yeah.
But let's talk. I was on a podcast with Candace Harris of Board Game Geek, and we were talking about music themed games, and there aren't really a lot of them that really feel like they are about music. As
Hmm.
opposed to just like
A theme.
it could be about anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm very much looking forward to Luthier from Paverson Games that is coming out next year.
Mm.
And I actually broke my rule about not backing games on Kickstarter because that one I think is going to be special because you're going to be crafting classical instruments for a variety of patrons. It looks very complex and juicy, and I've been playing a little bit of Distilled on Board Game Arena, and I quite like Distilled.
Yeah.
I think Dave Beck of Paverson Games has a similar sensibility to me in that he likes things that are basically European style games, that is Euros, but overlaid with a little bit of push your luck and a little bit of you don't know what's going to happen. So it's kind of fun to see and you're interested in what other people are doing.
Mm.
And I'm very sorry I did not get to meet him at Gen Con.
Yeah.
I was quite busy. And yes, Mikhail, I agree. I don't know. Oh, I think Amanda and I played Ovation for a little bit. But
Yeah.
Lacrimosa is one of my favorite games. It's about completing Mozart's Requiem for his widow, and it is by my publisher De Beer Games, and it is probably the reason that I am with De Beer Games with Rock Hard, because the player boards in Lacrimosa are just beautiful.
Yeah.
And I should, This is how bad I am a promoter. I totally forgot to even have my copy of Rock Hard handy, but
Yeah. I mean, y'all
well,
sold
we might
out,
remedy
and I
that.
was like, oh my gosh, I need to get a copy, but I haven't gotten one yet. um,
Because I have not gotten my extra copies. I have one with
yeah.
your name on it, Amanda, but you're going to have to wait because they are they're in high demand right now.
Oh yes, yes,
So
absolutely.
they're still available. There are some stores that have them, and in particular, um, a lot of the most. I don't want to be an advertiser here for any particular online store, but the usual suspects have them back in stock now.
Yeah. Um. Okay. Uh, it's not sold out, Blair. It's not sold out. You can get it, I do believe, on Devere's website. If I'm
You can
not,
get it from Devere's
yeah,
website. You can get it from some other online stores here. The online stores were sold out for a little while, but they have since restocked.
yeah. Um,
So
we have a good question though. Ethan Paquette says, "Was Rock Hard always 1977? Did you consider other years' names?"
it was originally 1976 to
Mhm.
go with my social media, which is all at Jackie Fox 1976. But what happened was I had temporary art created by the top courtroom artist in LA, Mona Schaefer Edwards, who did this amazing art. But she kind of put some of the characters in spandex. And I just started going, when did we start wearing spandex? Really, it was the early 80s, but it was kind of sneaking in at the end of maybe 1978. So we would fudge it a little bit because I remember seeing David Lee Roth, I think, in with Van Halen in 1978, and he was an early adopter of spandex in order to do those big splits in the air on stage. And I started thinking about music, and 1977 was an amazing year because there were all these different styles that existed at the same time. You had kind of the end of the glam rock era, and classic rock was still going strong, maybe stronger than ever. Punk was coming in. So you had these early punk bands, the Sex Pistols, the Clash, who I don't really think of as punk, but they were part of the punk movement. And you had proto metal bands coming in because we were about to go into the big hair era. Yes, now you can see I have been teasing all week that I tried cutting my own hair with disastrous results. Um, Turns out Brad Mondo has a lot of energy and he just does stuff really fast.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is an epic hair fail. So next week I will be getting my hair professionally and properly cut. It seemed like a good idea at the time. That's all I'm going to say.
Schuberg got theirs, which is awesome. Mikkel says it hasn't shown up in Sweden yet, but it should be there soon. That's not Rock Hard 1977.
I will
King.
say 1977 was probably not the best year for board games.
Was there like, I mean, besides like Hasbro, right? Monopoly. Was there other games? I mean, I'm sure there was,
There,
but
well, there were a bajillion. First of all, there was the Game of Life,
yeah.
which, you had two big choices to make: go to college or go into the workplace. And I never did see the advantage of a family. Uh, they cost you money. So it was meant to teach you about life. And all it really taught me was that the game of life kind of sucks.
Mm,
And I
yeah.
never liked Monopoly because no one ever taught it to us properly when we
Mm-hmm.
were kids, for one thing. So we'd get bored very easily because we didn't really know how to play a strategy game. And we would mostly just play variations on the Indian game of Pachisi. So there was
Wow.
Parcheesi, there
Mm-hmm.
was Sorry, there was Aggravation, there was Trouble. And they were all pretty much the same, except that one of them had the Pop-O-Matic bubble for
Yes.
dice.
Yeah. I remember that.
And if you don't follow game designer Jeff Engelstein on his Substack. I'm going to give him a real shout out and say you should, because he writes about very interesting things in the areas of game design and mathematics and probability and the psychology of gaming, which are fascinating. And he pulled up a study on the Pop-O-Matic bubble that showed that the rolls were not actually random.
Oh no.
They were more likely to do the flip side of whatever was already facing up.
Well, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So, which is too bad because it was seriously fun popping that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Uh,
there were a lot of toys in our games in the 70s, and I think that did impact when I was designing Rock Hard, the idea of having amps that you could actually turn the knobs on and something to fiddle with is just too appealing in games.
yeah. Let's see.
And Alpha 3 wants to know if I ever played a board game with the Runaways, and I did not.
I don't think that, yeah.
I don't think we did play some arcade games occasionally at the gigs that we played, but I'm really the only gamer that was in that band. So I would have happily played board games in our trailer if we'd had a big enough trailer to fit a
With a big
board
enough
game in.
table. Yeah. People loved
Yeah.
Sorry and Operation. Cosmic Encounter first came out in 1977. That's crazy.
Did it
That's
really?
crazy, Blair.
So no, you know what? I'll tell you what's crazy, and this is a really good cross promotion opportunity, Amanda. We are going to be doing Code Names Live.
Mhm.
When are we doing it?
Next Monday?
Monday. 2 days, right?
Yeah, 5 p.m. Pacific.
What's the Twitch channel we're going to be on? Do you want to?
Oh my gosh, now you're making me look it up. I'm gonna go look it up
I
real
am
quick.
making you look it up. So we're going to be playing Code Names. Amanda will be partnering with Paula Deming, who you all know from Things Get Dicey and Watch It Played. And I will be partnering with somebody from my personal game group who I had played with for several years, only to discover that not only had he also been on Jeopardy, he was the Second Chance Tournament champion and was in the Tournament of Champions last year, and that is Nick Cascone. So it's going to be the Jeopardy champs versus the content creators, and we're going to basically see who can think more alike. And I will tell you, Amanda, because I'm sure you're wondering. Um,
Oh,
I'm sure Nick and I prepared tremendously for Jeopardy. We have not prepared at all for Code Names because it is a comedy show and it will be funnier if we haven't done
uh,
this.
there's the channel right there. Um, Paula Deming also does like Gal Free Girls, where she and her friend watches like Doctor Who and Star Trek and Comet and stuff, and she's just lovely, very talented. But it's funny because I don't think I've met your friend before, and we've never played games together before.
No, he's so nice. He's not a doctor, but he is in the medical industry and occasionally will come to game day in his scrubs. So he's been nicknamed by our group Dr. Nick.
Oh, that's funny.
And it turns out Dr. Nick was not only a Jeopardy champion, a Jeopardy tournament champion, or he was an actor and he was in Titanic.
Really? Did
So
he? Was he one of
he's
the people in the water?
he's no, he was one of the guys when I guess when Rose shows back up who kind of says,
Oh,
I think you're gonna want to take this call.
oh,
I don't know. I looked his
interesting.
scene up the other day.
That's
He's
interesting.
probably horrified that I'm telling people all this stuff about him, but
That's
um,
okay.
it's going to
That's
be
okay.
it's going to be interesting because when I do things that are at all trivia related in code names, most people just kind of look at me and go, "What?"
But he's gonna know.
So I
Hopefully,
don't
he's gonna know.
know. I don't know if Nick and I will have the same trivia frame of reference. It'll be interesting.
I don't know if me and Paula will either because I've never played code names with Paula Deming. So we shall see. This is gonna be a very chaos-filled
I,
stream
I
of the
think
game.
you two are going to be going very much plain meaning with things, which was
Probably.
is
Probably.
usually I think works better.
Yeah.
So they've built it up that we're going to be really embarrassed if we lose.
Oh, that's good. We're gonna make you embarrass you. Um, it'll be
Probably.
fun though. It'll be fun. Watch they come back and they win and they kill us, and it's just because all the hidden inside jokes.
But the
But
reason that I brought that up is that Nick is the one who introduced me to Cosmic Encounter, which is
oh, that's
just
interesting.
chaos, and we usually play that while we are waiting for somebody to show up to play, our 3-hour game or whatever.
But Cosmic Encounter is a long game, is it not?
No, it's pretty quick
Okay, I've never
because
played it
what
before.
you can make it quick because you can gang up on people.
Oh, there you go. Probably why I've never played it before.
Yeah, you would probably think it's a kind of a mean game.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's so fast and so silly. You have a space faction and a race, and you're just trying to get into the most bases possible, and so you can. I still don't really know how it works. It's just silly.
Yeah. King
But it's
Thunderstar says, Jackie, what's your favorite board game of all time?
of all time. I
Of
don't know about all
all
time.
time.
My favorite of certainly of the last 5 years is Dune Imperium. And I have not played Dune Imperium Uprising enough to know whether I like it that much more than the original,
Hmm.
but it is really thematic and it adds a very interesting mechanism of being able to dispatch spies to watch certain board spaces and then be able to always sneak in there. Um,
And that's
so
one that's from Dire Wolf, right?
it's from Direwolf
Yeah.
and designed by Paul Denon, who also designed the Clank games as well as others. And here's a fun little trivia fact: is when I was demoing Rock Hard, uh, Paul Denon played my game, which was
Oh.
like no pressure.
That's
Talk
funny.
about yeah, that was I think the single moment that I was the most nervous in the entire development process of Rock Hard 1977.
Was that at Gen Con?
That was at Gen Con 2 years ago.
Oh. Um,
So yeah, it's interesting demoing a game at Gen Con because you're usually grabbing whatever space you can find that isn't taken, and you're in the middle of uh, thousands of other people who are playing games, and it's quite distracting.
we're gonna pause real quick. Okay. It was saying that the stream was having issues, so we're okay now. We're okay now.
I
Okay.
see little spinny things around myself on the stream. Oh God, I really did a number on my hair. Kids,
Yes.
don't try to learn how to cut hair
YouTube's not
on the internet.
receiving enough video.
Alpha
Why?
3 is asking a great question that is game related in a way, so I'm going to answer this.
Mm-hmm.
Which I was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and I went home on an audience question. Alpha 3 would like to know if I was angry about the audience's mistake. And the short answer is I was upset about that, but I wasn't mad at the audience. I was mad at the show's writers
Huh.
because it was a very poorly written question. It was using they in as a neutral pronoun, but to be either singular or plural, which it turned out confused the audience. It confused me when the question came up, and I adjusted, but I was so in the moment, I didn't realize that it was going to take the audience that long to adjust.
I see.
And it even when I got eliminated and I was walking away, a friend of mine heard the crew saying to each other that was a bad question. And I did appeal, but they had a rule that unless a question was factually incorrect,
Oh.
you couldn't because they didn't want people to be appealing a lot and having to bring people back on.
Oh.
So
That's a
sad trombone.
wah wah wah.
Yeah.
Issy says, do you ever dress up to fit in with the theme era of a game you're playing? I don't think we've
No.
ever done that. No.
No, we have one of our friend Kevin, for
Mm.
whom Carter Stadium is named in Rock Hard, did show up to the first playthrough, and I have this on video. He did show up with a crazy wig and sunglasses and a scarf around his head, and I didn't have the heart to say, it's just a playthrough.
It's not like for yeah. By the way, Panda Palace.
And the
Is
Palace, which is
yeah.
probably the most commonly played venue in Rock Hard.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
and Pan's Palace, for those of you who are rock fans, is kind of based a little bit. It's like a cross between Madame Wong's famous punk club in Los Angeles and the Palace, which was a great mid-sized venue that was like a very large club, and it's smaller than an arena. Good place to see live music, and sadly
Cool.
doesn't exist anymore.
Mm, yeah. Let's see. The next question. Oh wait. Sorry, not that one. Let me go find another one. Here we go. Oh wait, we already answered that one too.
Ethan wants to know that aside from catching COVID, how was Gen Con?
Yep.
And would I ever do another board game signing? And the answer is yes. I'm always happy to show up at events and sign board games. Gen Con, for those who don't know or have never been, is insane.
It's the
It's
largest board game convention in United States, or maybe even North America, which would include Canada, and Mexico.
well, it's the second largest in the world, so it's the largest of
That's true.
any board game convention outside Europe, specifically outside Germany.
Yeah, because
And
Essen is the biggest.
this year they sold 71,000 badges.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell how many people are there every day because some of those people come every day. Some will buy a badge and only come on the weekend. But you only need a badge to get into the exhibit hall, and there is lots going on that's not in the exhibit hall, including open gaming on the floor of Lucas Oil Field,
Stadium.
which is where Indiana's professional football team plays, and just the entire floor is board game tables. And then all the suites around are taken up by media events.
Or TTRPG
There,
sessions.
yeah, and there are rooms around the exhibit hall, which itself is huge. And so some of the publishers have rooms set up for specific games or for demos of their games. So Devere had a room devoted to Rock Hard. I had my own room there,
And they had
and
a
you
cool
could have
like
gotten.
background and picture
Oh,
opportunity.
they had standees of all the characters.
Yeah.
I had a promo card that was being sold there, and so I had a giant standee, which was really cool. I've always wanted to be a standee.
Did you get to
Um,
take that standee home?
I have been offered it, but you've been to my house.
Hold
It's
on.
not that big.
You have frozen again, Lydia, my friend.
Okay, let's
I
try
think
the
I
magic thing that you used.
y'all, I think she could hide it somewhere. she could hide her standee somewhere. There you go. You're
It's
back.
okay.
You're back.
Yeah, I just start and stop the camera on. I don't know why.
I think you can fit it in. It's
Very.
flat. Stick it somewhere, behind the headboard. Just bring it out for special,
I have a
opportunities.
very boring background here. I'm in the process of redecorating the house to try to get up a better office space. Um, yeah, I need more board game storage, don't we all?
Is
So
that is the truth? That's the truth. But I think you could fit a standee. I think you should say yes to the standee, and I think they all agree.
wait, what am I supposed to say yes to?
The standee of you.
Oh, the standee. I really have no place to put it. The first time I ever captained my team to a huge regional pub trivia win. I got the giant, ugly, this ugly, ugly trophy, and I had it in front of the fireplace for like 2 years. And then I finally went, what am I doing with this thing? None of the pubs where we played that we kind of qualified for wanted it. I finally dumped it in the trash one day.
Oh,
Like, I don't need
oh,
this giant thing. I know there's so much stuff I would like to save because it's part of my history,
yeah.
and
A Jackie museum.
I just can't do it. I know I do. I need another house to
You
be a
do.
Jackie museum.
Jackie museum.
There you go.
Rob
Anybody has
says, sorry, Rob says, what's the longest you've ever played a board game? Consecutive hours, days, or longer? Oh, that's a good question.
um, I try to limit my gaming sessions to like 5 hours because I do have fibromyalgia and I start getting a little brain foggy at the end. However, I did go to BGG Con, which is held twice a year, once in the fall and once in spring. It is a very fun board game convention run by Board Game Geek in Dallas. And I went one year and ended up a couple of the guys from CGE Czech Games Edition said, "Hey, you want to play? We're going to play Tricarion. Do you want to play this?" And Tricarion is a very long, complex Euro. And I was like, "Sure, I just don't want to be up super late." And they're like, "Yeah, no problem. It'll take like 3 hours." They came and grabbed me out of my dinner line that I had waited in for an hour, and I apologized to the people I was going to be having dinner with. We sat down. I think they started teaching it at 8 o'clock. We started
Mm.
playing it at 9, finished at 3 a.m.
Oh my goodness.
So the next day they wanted to play something and I said, "Okay, but you're just on notice. I am setting my phone. The alarm is going to go off at midnight. And I don't care where we are in a game. When it goes off, I'm getting up from the table and I am leaving." And sure enough, Felix, who is just delightful from CGE, decided he wanted to play Eclipse, which is a type of game called a 4X game, which is basically space exploration and warfare. And I was like, "Is this really going to be done by midnight?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah, no problem, no problem." When my alarm went off, we were exactly halfway through the game.
Oh my goodness.
And it turned out to be very convenient that his faction had just gotten eliminated. So I stood up and I was in a very bad, precarious situation because I'd expanded too fast. So I said, "Great, Felix, you're playing my expansion. Good luck. See you tomorrow." And I walked off.
Nice. Nice.
And they found me the next day and they said, "Hey, good news. You didn't lose."
I think my longest was TI4, Twilight Imperium 4, which takes 8 to 9 hours to play it. But we make
I
sure we
could
know it's a whole day thing and have breaks and
Yeah, I
stuff.
could do that at my house with a lot of breaks.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know that my cats could do that.
Yeah, your poor kitties wouldn't like us there.
They
But yeah.
really wouldn't. So I very much want to play Twilight Imperium one of these days, but it would have to be somewhere where we were taking appropriate food breaks and leaving it up and really making it kind of leisurely and starting
Yeah,
early.
yeah.
Yeah.
JP says, "Did you ever play Risk? I started in third grade, almost finished with the first game now." Risk isn't
No,
that long.
Risk doesn't. Well, the problem with Risk and the reason it has been redone and why it is not currently a truly popular game is because the inevitable occurs well before the end, where the leader is just going to trounce everybody and becomes unbeatable. And then you kind of
Uh,
have to sit through at least another half hour or longer of game, knowing that you cannot win, no
mm,
matter that the dice are just going to catch up with you. Somebody has successfully spread out and conquered too much territory. And so, am I freezing again?
nope, you're fine.
Better. So board games have come an awful long way, and they are designed now so that you don't have player elimination in the same way, so that people stay in it. very serious strategy board games, if you mess up early on, you might be stuck playing 2 hours knowing that you can't win. And when that happens to me, I just try to set a personal goal that's something different, which is to or more than I did the last time, or finish within so many points of whoever is going to win, or do something that is, just learn more, watch the person who's winning and see what they did, and kind of make mental notes and hope that they will share their secrets with me afterwards. A lot of the games that I like, which are very serious strategy games, I don't go into them expecting to win the first few times I play. And especially if I'm playing against people who own the game, who play it a lot. And that can be very unfun and be a barrier to playing that game for the first time. So you just have to approach it with a different attitude. I'm here to learn. I'm here to study what makes a great board gamer a great board gamer. I'm here to do well and make myself proud, things like that.
That's good. We do have someone here who does not know what Rock Hard 1977 is. Do you want to do a quick explanation
Rock
of
Hard
your game?
197 is a board game in which you play an up and coming musical artist trying to make it big with your band. So, over the course of 9 months, you are going to rehearse and play gigs to improve your musical chops. You're going to try to get yourself a reputation, write some original songs, maybe hang out after hours, meet some people who can help your career, get a record deal, hire some crew, play larger and larger gigs, hopefully make it to Carter Stadium, as we've been talking about. But whether you do or not, try to become the best new rock band of 1977. It's
And
a lot of fun. It looks very complex when you first open it up, but it's actually a pretty simple game. And people get the hang of it after a couple rounds. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. It is a
agree.
strategy game, but being about being in a rock band, anything can happen.
Blair asked, "Are you gonna do an expansion?"
There is an expansion designed, or at least I'd say now, having played the game, mostly designed, because it will probably change and as it goes through play testing, but we'll see whether the base game of Rock Hard does well enough to warrant an expansion. I hope it does, because the expansion lets songwriting shine.
Mm-hmm.
Like the in the base game, when you write a song, really all you do is you say, I'm writing a song, and you turn up your song dial. But in the expansion, you will get to use your life experience that you gain to write songs of certain styles. So, for instance, if you've had a lot of fun experiences, you're going to be writing some anthems. If you've had a lot of romantic encounters, you might be writing a power ballad, and so on and so forth. And then you'll be taking some of those songs and promoting them as singles and working your way up the charts. And so it'll add a whole other way to get points and a different mechanism into the game. And I have play tested the original version of it, and it was a lot of fun. It was actually a lot of fun. So we debated including it as a module in the base game of Rock Hard, but wanted to keep the price point below a certain point, so that it's not very expensive. It's not an expensive game. You can you can just try it out.
And if
And
you, uh-huh, go ahead.
I just want to little plug. The holidays are coming up. You probably have friends who are like, I don't know, this looks like it might be too easy, it might be too hard, I don't know, I'm not sure. Make a very great gift for those people. Just saying.
And if you want a Jackie promo so that you can play Jackie, I would say best thing is to try to, if you have a friend that's going to a board game convention or you're going to a board game convention, try to get it to be right now. It's like out. Like they basically sold out
Nope.
at Gen
The,
Con, at Essen. Are they not doing it at PAX? They're not gonna bring it at
they
PAX?
nope. They
Oh
did it
no.
at it was Gen Con and Essen only. They are
Oh.
gone. They are
Mm,
selling for an awful lot of money on eBay, and my feeling is don't reward people who go to conventions and take this stuff away from you and then turn around and try to make hundreds of dollars on
yeah,
that. So,
yeah, that's
yeah,
sad. But if you do see Jackie, she'll tramp stamp the cover for you
I
of the
will
game.
sign your game for you. It doesn't have to be the, I have been signing the cover. Jennifer Ginet did beautiful, beautiful original watercolor artwork for all the characters and the cover. And when I started signing games, I didn't want to mess up her gorgeous artwork. So I just decided to sign my name on the lower back of the rocker on the cover and give them a little tramp stamp. So I'm happy to do that, or sign the inside of your box cover or the side, or just scribble in my name really big across the front of the box if that's what you want.
That's funny. Alpha 3 says, I've noticed among young people that playing board games is seen as nerdy. What would you say to confute that? I find them to be great in order to establish good relationships with people. Agreed. They're good for,
Well, I'd say it depends on
friendships.
what kind of games you're playing, but I'd
That's
also
true
say
too.
nerdy is cool.
That's also true.
I am proud to be a nerd, and but there are very social games that it depends on what kind of game you're playing. There are social deduction games in which you're trying to just lie to your friends and not get caught and figure out who's lying and solve some kind of mystery or situation. There are word games in which you're trying to spell the longest word, the most complex word, the words that fit in with people. There are word association games. There are very complex strategy games, chess-like games. I mean, they run the whole gamut. So to say there are games that don't ever invite me to games of this type where you're just trying to match up cards so they make the dirtiest sounding situation possible. And I'm not crazy about that kind of game, but they're a lot of people like them, sit around drinking with their friends, and they're very social and not at all nerdy.
Yes, agreed.
So there you go.
There's a good question. Any features of Rock Hard 1977 that ended up on the cutting room floor during development?
Yeah, DeVere actually had a really good idea because all the amps in my game, the knobs all go to 11, of course, in honor of This Is Spinal Tap. Um, and at one point, my publisher thought, well, maybe it shouldn't be so easy to turn your amps from 10 to 11. So I had it so that you had to have an overdrive token, and you had to basically crank on your overdrive to go past 10, which was a really cool and thematic idea. But we also cut the game from 12 rounds to 9 to keep it playable in about an hour and a half once you know it. And it was just too hard to get those tokens and be able to use them. So I think, again, if there is an expansion, that's they might make an appearance.
Uh,
Yeah, they were fun.
yeah, and being a playtester, I saw your game kind of get developed and changed over time, depending on who like kind of touched it and saw it and stuff. And it was really cool to see how it kind of changed and grew. But it is quite. I guess it's kind of different from, like the sugar wasn't sugar, but you know what it was, that type of thing. But yeah, it's really fun. I really enjoy it. I like the differences. I kind of liked the three sets of cards that you had in the beginning without the set collection, where we were like going,
Right.
experiences. But that's a different thing, and it was for almost like a different game. So, but I
Well,
thought it
some
was really
people are
cool.
very good if they redesign a game per one publisher's request and then the publisher ultimately passes to just take away that change and go back to what they had. And for me, it's just easier to keep moving forward. And I kind of went, this set collection thing is kind of interesting because it creates some choices when you're hanging out at night because, oh, maybe I want to hang out here because there's a certain benefit I get, But something else that that Devere added was the idea originally that there would be a VIP section in some of these clubs, and that became, well, some clubs are hotter than each other from month to month. So if you go hang out at a hot club, you're going to be out a lot later, and you're going to go later in the next round. And I could not make the game work the way I wanted to with just having turn order get passed in clockwise order. It was a lot more interesting to have it be within the player's control. And it's also a good introduction to that concept in a game that's not too complex, because most more complex games use a lot of more complex games have variable turn order. So you could do something that would get you points, but make you go later the next round, or maybe you would take a suboptimal action after hours so you could be first in the following round, and then maybe you would want to go to one place because it completed a set for you and got you points. So it leaves decisions after hours that are a lot more interesting.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I left
Yeah.
it in.
Alpha
I
says,
mean,
mhm.
oh, go ahead. I am part of a playtest group here in Los Angeles that I go to on occasion, and it's one of the things that happens during play testing is, initially you're play testing things just to see if people even seem like they're having fun and it's a worthwhile idea to pursue. And then from there, you proceed to where you're play testing basically to see if your game is going to just break down and not be playable. And then you're play testing for balance and looking at people's strategies. And as you move through the playtesting stage, it's really interesting because people try things that you didn't think of, and they find problems with it, and sometimes they make suggestions that are just great and make the game so much better. And it's one of my favorite parts of game design. It's not the necessarily designing the game. It's watching other people play it and listening to their input and seeing where they're engaged. And um, I'm like really excited because I had a deadline for the game in order to get it out quickly and have it at Gen Con this year that didn't leave me time to design a solo module. So right now, officially, the game is playable by 2 to 5 players. And I just invited Board Game Geek users to come up with their own solo modules. And so far, there are like 3 unofficial solo variants. And I haven't had a chance to play them yet and try them out. And none of them sound like they're what my idea would be for a solo variant, but I want to try them all out. And it's, I'm excited to see what fans of the game have come up with.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Alpha does ask, have you played Bang?
I surprisingly I have not.
There's a card game and a dice game. I played the dice game. I don't think I played Bang the card game.
Yeah, there I think people like the dice game
Hmm.
better, is my
Yeah.
sense of it. I've played things for that size group, like we've played Good Cop, Bad Cop. And they're little games that you haul down when you have 6 people and you just want to play something light. I think now when we have 6 people, we'll do something like Code Names, or Dr. Nick, who isn't a doctor, has Heat Pedal to the Metal and all the expansions for that. So we end up playing that a lot when there are 6 of us before we split up into our groups of 3, or you get joined by a couple other people and do 4-player games that last 3 hours. But that's what, yeah. I actually really wanted. There's some popular games I have never played. I've never played in terms of like big games that aren't necessarily what you think of as party games. Have you ever played Two Rooms and a Boom, Amanda?
Nope. But I heard of it.
I,
Yeah.
that's designed for like up to like 100. It'll play 100 people, right?
Yeah. But you need a big group to make that really fun. Like you can't play it with like 3 people, you know? So I
Right.
haven't gotten that group together yet, to actually play that. So
Yeah, and there's no, and it is, as I recall, it is now not in print, so copies are very expensive, but it's something I would like to play at a convention someday and just see how that plays out. Two Rooms in a Boom, you're basically in one of two groups of people, I think, and you're trying to not be in the room that's going to explode at the end.
which is kind of funny. Now, speaking of conventions, you were at Gen Con, you were not at Essen. Are you planning to go to PAX Unplugged?
Right now, I am not planning to go to PAX. I'm probably going to go to Dice Tower West in March. I don't know. I would like to go to PAX because it is my favorite board game convention. I really love PAX, aside from the fact that it's in Philadelphia, which I still haven't ever been able to stay long enough to just go hang out and be a tourist in Philadelphia. But Philadelphia is a very cool city. It's easy to get to from most places in the U.S. And a lot of them overseas. And the convention is big, so you can do everything from playing role-playing games to shopping for new games to just test playing tons and tons of games, hanging out with your friends, etc., demoing a lot, seen a lot of games demoed, trying a few rounds of various games, but it's not the overwhelming sensory overload of Gen Con.
Yeah, agreed.
It's just really well run. It's a fun board game convention.
I agree.
I forgot to add that word.
Convention?
Yes, I don't know why. I know. Okay, BGG streams always end up talking about food, so we have to have the obligatory food discussion. I had the most disgusting dinner last night. I was convinced I was not going to sleep.
Uh-oh.
Nasty. I did sleep though, and when I woke up this morning, something that never happens, there was a little cat under the covers with me, curled up against me,
Aww. Which one?
and I didn't. A peanut. Slinky would never do that.
Oh my gosh.
Uh, yeah. So, what about you in the chat? What are your favorite board games?
Yeah.
Pop them up. Let's discuss.
But Sheberg does says, when did you realize that you wanted to create your own game?
I think you were there that day,
You
Amanda.
froze.
Oh,
You
I can't
froze. You
remember. I
froze.
know.
This is a good question. This is a good answer, y'all. We're gonna wait.
This usually works. Just
There you
camera
go.
on and off.
There you go.
Okay, unfrozen. I think Amanda was there. We had a game group that had 5 people in it. Usually only 4 of us would show up at one time, which was perfect because most games are still starting to change now, but they're designed for 2 to 4 players. And so it was kind of never an issue. But one day 5 of us showed up. And there were literally like 2 games on my shelf that we could play, and none of us were crazy about them. And I kind of we also like different types of games, which is common in a lot of board game groups. So it's like, how do we find that kind of middleweight game that people who like complex games will want to play because it's still fun for them, and people who generally like very light, fun games will want to play even though it's got some more complex strategic thinking? And why aren't there more of those on my shelf that will play with 5 people and still have turns be pretty quick, where you're not looking to pull out your phones? Because I mean, strategy games that play up to 5 players mostly aren't that good because there's so much thinking time, and the time between your turns can get very long, and you're just not engaged because it, either it's going to change so much by the time it gets back to you, you don't care what the person after you does. I'll look when it comes closer to me, or there's just not much interaction. And I thought it has to be possible to design a game that is at heart a strategic European style game, but it has that little fun factor of, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. It's not it's like some of it is I have to adjust to changing circumstances, not just to what other players do. And maybe there's a little bit of push your luck, as that's just fun. And it's very hard to marry those into a game. Um, so I wanted to create a game like that. And I
That's
think
awesome.
Distilled is a bit like that as well.
Yeah. The Guild was also like where it was intimidating to look at until you just finally play it and you're like, "Oh, this was pretty easy and it was not
Yeah, it's
bad." So
not
it's
that
good.
complex.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's really fun because it is also based on real life stuff. You're distilling different spirits.
Yeah.
And so you need a combination of you need a certain type of sugar, you need yeast, you need water, you need alcohol, and you're going to throw it all in, but some stuff is not going to be usable. So you have to put a little extra in your thing, and then you can add different flavorings to it. And the longer you age it, the more complex it's going to get. So in the game, that will score you more points. And then you sell it in a nicer bottle. You can sell it to a better clientele. There's a lot to think about in that game. It's fun.
Yeah,
And it is
absolutely.
playable, I think, with a premium subscription on Board Game Arena.
Yep. Yep.
Use
JP
the
says,
base.
"Have you ever flipped a board upside down when you lost? Flipped the table?" Asking for a friend.
No, although in Tabletop Simulator, which is it's not digitized because it doesn't move anything for you, but it basically is a digital representation of a board that you can pick tokens up and move them around like you would in real life. So it's used a lot for board game testing, and they did program in that you can do a table flip.
Yep.
So I've done it.
It's
I've
fun.
done it in Tabletop Simulator.
Yeah. Mikhail says their favorite board game is Terraforming Mars. That's a good engine builder.
Terraforming Mars is a very good classic game, um, and yeah, and people. It's the first game that I really saw people do a lot of customization for,
Hmm. Hmm.
where they
And
were
that as
creating
in they 3D print stuff and
and
change
type and create
tokens.
trees
Hmm.
and yeah,
Yeah.
and
Not
make them look amazing.
yeah, so what she's talking about is like basically upgrading the bits or the board or the look of the game, not necessarily changing how the game plays, in
Well,
terms
you
of
have to
customizing.
change it a little because the player mounts on Terraforming Mars, you're lining up a lot of little cubes on them, and it's not a double thick board with little slots for them. So if you reach a hand out to move something on the main board and you're not careful, everything goes flying and you don't know how much of each thing that you had. So you either have to take pictures after every move or you have to buy an organizer. So my copy of Terraforming Mars, I bought an organizer and then I kind of added to it by printing my own version of this stuff on the board and gluing it inside and at least making the player boards just look great
Yeah. Um,
and be more functional.
I think we're gonna wrap it up soon. One question, one more question. Have you ever heard of a horror movie themed single player board game called Final Girl? Which I think you have
I
from
played it
Fan
last
Rider.
night, in
Yes.
fact, and last night was I got slaughtered. First, I got horribly slaughtered because the first event, I mean, if you've never played Final Girl, it is very much like the typical horror movie in
Yes.
which there's a Jamie Lee Curtis or somebody similar who is going to be trying to go up against a murderer of some sort, and you are trying to save potential victims and get them out of the way of the murderers so they can't get killed. But some of them are always going to get killed, and as they get killed, the murderer's bloodlust is going to increase and make. I think so far they're all men. Are
Mm.
there any, at least that I'm aware of? But there are a lot of different
But there's like
movie pals.
werewolves. It's the classic movie bad guy.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so I just played the kind of classic first game of Hans the Butcher versus Lori, and first event that came out added 6 new victims to the board, and and then I got things that made him way more powerful, and it was just like, I know I'm getting slaughtered this game. It's going to happen. I'm gonna last as long as I can. It was a bloodbath. It
Yeah.
was bad.
It's hard. It's hard to win that one. I played it on stream and I had the chat, like I had named some of the, the victims or the people that were trying to, save the chat, names from chat, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, you just got killed." It's very hard because you only have a certain number of cards. You can buy cards to, play next turn, but it's a very tight management of your cards and your actions. It's a very good game with a lot of
And
different modules.
after, yeah, and you have a countdown clock in effect with things that are terrorizing the town. It's very clever.
Yeah, and
And
you can
the
mix and match. You can mix and match the hero and the bad guy from different movies and different genres.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they've I love that they have created very diverse heroines in the game. And I also, it's very clever packaging because the box actually unfolds open and becomes the playing board.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it works.
Yeah.
It works really well. It's very fast to set up. So and it's just a solo game. I mean, you could play it with 2 people, playing the one character, but it's something that sometimes when I feel like I just need to play a physical game and handle pieces and move them around, Final Girl is perfect.
That's awesome.
And you don't get mad when you lose because, you
You didn't
know,
just play again.
you kind of know going in that there
Yeah.
is a chance things are not going to go your way.
Yeah. High chance. High chance.
A very high chance, yes.
Yes. Ethan asked, was it an easy choice to make a game about music having been out of the industry for so long?
Oh yeah, I love worker placement games. These are games where you have one or more workers representing usually yourself is as a worker, and then sometimes some assistants. And you have to choose a spot on the board and put your worker there. And in a typical worker placement game, it blocks that space off for the other players. So you're always balancing, you need a whole bunch of things, and maybe you're going to have more than one chance. What do you pick? Um, and so it's my favorite game mechanism, and it just lends itself naturally to the music industry because there are things that you do, and you're going to go promote your band, you're going to rehearse, you're going to hire crew, you're going to play gigs, and then there are a few other little things that you can do. But the first convention I brought it to for playtesting was the prototype mini convention at Dice Tower West, and 2 other people had music themed worker placement games that year.
Oh.
And we all had a lot of the same spaces,
Oh.
but they played very differently.
Dang.
So one of them is somebody who's just been doing it for fun. I thought he had a really interesting mechanism in his game, and I hope he works on it. He's an attorney from Orange County. And then the other one was our friend Candace Harris of Board Game Geek, whose Rivals of Rock is going to be available. I shouldn't say available. This will be coming to Kickstarter early next year.
Yes. Um, David asked, how much time did you spend developing your game?
5 years.
Yeah, it's a long time. And even after it's signed, it can go through another year or two of development and processing through the publisher. So it takes a while unless you self-publish to
A
get a
lot
good game
depends.
out.
Yeah, and a lot depends on the publisher and what your expectations are for the game. On this one, because it was so personal to me, Devere basically left everything in the development up to me. They just said the only thing they wanted was they wanted it to be both shorter and more complex. And
Which
it
is
was like,
hard. That's hard.
he's don't go together.
No, that's a very
So
hard ask.
yeah, it took some figuring, and then I did the play testing on it, and then at the end we were right up on the deadline, and they were like, okay, we want to double the number of cards, and we want flavor text on everything.
Wow,
You
that
didn't know this. I came home one night. I had like 2 days to write flavor text on over 100 cards. And I just sat down and was like, every crazy thing that has ever happened to me, either in the band or happened to friends outside of the band, started making its way onto those cards. And even some of the cards that they hadn't asked for flavor text, it was like, you know what? I'm doing flavor text. I'm doing it on everything. So when you pick up those cards and you're reading the little, you don't have to read all the flavor text, but some of it's very funny and most of it is very true.
yeah, it was
Or
funny. Yeah, when I played it, sorry about that. When I played it with some of the BGG people, I was like, "Oh, this sounds familiar. I think I heard about this story,"
yeah,
which
I've
is kind
told
of funny.
I've told if I'm running a game, the game will run long because I will sometimes fill in some of the stories.
Yeah. Uh, we are going. I'm going to take one last question. Real quick. JP Gorham says my favorite game is Shikuri. That's a newer game. Haven't played that one. And Deluxe Pente is fun too. Haven't played that one. But Eric asked, have you played any of the pop culture tile in games like The Office Clue or Star Wars Strategy? Think they're marketing gimmicks, or do you think they liven up a familiar game? Like, do you think having an IP onto a board game is good or kind of
It
gimmicky?
can be. It depends on, I mean, for the IP owner, it's marketing. It's 100% marketing. That doesn't mean that people are not going to create a great game around it. Like I said, my favorite game is Dune Imperium. And at the time that came out, I really wasn't very interested in Dune as a movie franchise at all. And I didn't like the art because I didn't care about that, but the gameplay is so good. And then as I got into it and realized how strategic it is with what goes on in the Dune universe, it did pull me back into Dune a little bit. But it's just a great game, and I think publishers of games, for them, that is their main business. So even though the owner of the Dune IP, it's like, well, board games are going to be a tiny fraction of the money that they make off of Dune. I mean, tiny, right? They don't care. But for Direwolf, which is publishing these games, it's a huge part of their income. So they're going to hire a great designer, Paul Denon. They're going to make the best game possible. And so I think it doesn't really affect